Hello, welcome back to my channel, Food for Life, where the food isn't just for the belly. My name is Jennifer Shepler, and today's topic is perseverance equals wisdom. So just as a reminder for you that I'm human and I make mistakes, I'm on a learning curve on this new platform I'm here sharing with you. So I expect grace as I will give to you. So we're both going to learn here, and so I will make mistakes. I may misinterpret something, but rest assured, I'm sure some of you will either comment or I'll find it on my own and realize I should have changed it. But I like to keep my videos as error-free as possible, meaning I don't like to do a lot of editing. So, and to remind you that I'm not a doctor, a professional, or a psychologist. I'm just a professional in my life, and I just feel that I need to share some stories in hopes to give other people perspective, hope, and some understanding. So I'll start off with just giving you a moment to think about your favorite sport or what you did in high school as a sport or what you are doing and what it means to win. And that takes perseverance. So I'll share a little story for me. Back in high school, I was a track person. I loved running, and I was the sprinter, so it would usually be 200 yards, which is a half a track or less. So I loved doing the relay races were my favorite. I love the art of passing that baton. Like there's a gift in doing that because not everybody can do it. I make fun of people on the Olympics when I see certain things happening that I know they would have had a better race had they just remembered this one little clue, but that's another story. So I was in the junior varsity team, and for the last 3 years, I go back in again and sign up for track. And the story is usually the same. You know, we're all at the beginning of the line, and the gun goes off, and everyone takes off. And here I am, the slow starter. But by the time the race is over, I'm surpassing everybody. And I got first place all the time. So in this particular year, on my third year in high school, my track coach comes up to me and says, Jen, you've got to go into varsity. Just try it out for me. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm that good. I don't believe I'm that good enough. And he's like, I do. So just go in and try it. So, okay, I'm excited. I'm varsity. I mean, that's a big deal to get asked to be in a varsity race. That means you're really good. And so I'm at the start line, and I'm ready and I'm pumped up, and I know that it's going to take me some time before I catch up to everybody because that's my routine. It's always been that way. So the gun goes off, and of course everyone else takes off, and I'm behind the line, and I'm like, I'll get there. I'll get there. I'll eventually get there. And the next thing you know, the race is over, and I'm still getting to that finish line. I was done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I came in last. I've never come in last before. And then I'm thinking, varsity is not for me. So my coach comes up to me and says, so what'd you think? And he's just happy. And I'm like, I'm thinking, did you just not see that I just came in last? But he obviously didn't think like that because he's like, do you want to go for the varsity? And I remember thinking two things. I can either go into varsity and come in last every time, or stay in junior varsity and be a winner. And at the time, I already felt like I was a loser. I didn't want to be a loser. I cared about what people thought all the time. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm going to stick to junior varsity. Okay. And so the rest is history. Now, the funny thing is, though, just a little side note is later on that year, I get featured in the school newspaper, and there's a picture of me in my track. I mean, I'm looking good. I'm fit. I'm like, I look back now and think, wow, I was really fit. And I didn't see that growing up. And And I know exactly what position I'm in this relay race on the picture that they showed, because in the background there's restaurants, and those restaurants are in the second leg of a 4-leg relay. So I knew I was actually in second place in the relay when I looked at this photo. So then, of course, I'm looking on the bottom, and there's where the credits come in. Jennifer Shepler places first. And I'm like, no, I didn't. That's second place in the relay. They said I came in first on the 200. Regardless of what race it was, the positions were still the same. So I knew as soon as I saw those restaurants, I was not in first place. But I didn't say nothing to anybody, and nobody ever called it out. So I just left it and gave myself a little bit of fame that day. So, needless to say, I didn't persevere through trying to be in varsity. Instead, I held back and didn't believe what I had potential of, which my coach saw. So I stayed in the junior varsity and I remained happy. But it's all in hindsight now. Should I have tried? Maybe if I believed I could have done it, maybe I would have gotten, maybe not last, but who knows? So let me share with you a little bit, a deeper level of perseverance. Okay, so now I'm growing up and I'm out of school and life has begun, and I am battling with depression. Now, to help you understand where I came from and how I got depression is a long-term process. So, growing up, not wanted by my mom, being abused sexually by men, and then I ended up being in abusive relationships, homelessness, and a sense of who I was null. I didn't know who I was. I was in so much trauma that I really didn't have a chance to figure out, well, who is Jennifer? What do I like? What do I not like? So I was just coping. So for many, many years, I'm coping and dealing with people that are telling me these things. And eventually I started to believe it. So if somebody tells you you're a loser, and then another person tells you you're a loser, after a while you think you're a loser. So that's kind of what happened. These nasty messages that came to me, and I didn't have any sense of guidance on any positivity guidance anyway, to counteract those bad messages. So over the years, I just kept getting depressed. And then I'd go on medication and it would be fixed for a while. And I'd be on a normal, regular person acting happy until the next trauma happened, back down in depression, back on medication again. And I did this process for over 30 years. So then I'm in my 40s. And life really stinks for me right now at that time. I'm not 40 now, I'm talking in hindsight. And I'm now thinking about suicide. I'm having suicidal thoughts. I don't want to live anymore. And I literally just pray to God, can you just get me out of this life? I just don't want to be here anymore. I can't do it anymore. I'm tired of people using me and abusing me. And I just, there's no point. There's no point for me to be here. If everyone thinks I'm a loser, what am I living for? Those are the messages that were going through my head. And as I'm going through this, I realize that I'm in a vulnerable situation. I'm vulnerable to everybody, and I'm complaining and not liking things. I'm negative, and now people are leaving, and friends are disappearing, or at least I thought they were friends at the time. So that was just making the depression even worse. And then when I was asking God to help me out of it, He showed me something that woke me up. Not necessarily wide awake, but just made me think about, what would I be doing to my children if I left. So my son didn't have his dad. His dad just chose to not come back in his life. He wanted us to just leave him alone. So we left him alone. And so my son went through many years without his dad. And I'm like, that's not fair to my son. If I leave, what's that message going to teach my son? So that's when I thought, oh gosh, I need to look in the mirror and figure out what I'm doing. So that's exactly what I did. I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I don't like this. I don't like this. I just started listing things that I didn't like about myself. And that's not something that a lot of people do. A lot of people will look in the mirror and find all the great things about them because we live in a very boastful world right now. Everyone thinks that they're better than everybody. And this is presumptuous, of course, but this is how I see things right now. When people look in the mirror, you know, I think people need to look in the mirror and think about what can I improve? And that's what I did. So I'm like, okay, I need some help. I need to get out of this rut. I need to persevere through this depression and figure out what I'm supposed to do. And that's what I did. And I reached to Jesus to help me through that. So then I realized just in this last day, well, what does vulnerability looks like? Vulnerability is when you're in a weak point in your life, and that's when people can come in and do their attacks. And I like to call that spiritual attacks. That's when bad things happen to you um, because you're vulnerable. And really, is what it's doing is when you're vulnerable and open up to somebody about your weakness, that's when the devil can come in and make fun and do all kinds of things. And that's what he did for me. So when I was in depression, I was vulnerable. And so when you have a space of vulnerability, there are people out there who are stronger than you are when you're vulnerable. It's a level of low confidence. And so people that have low self confidence reek of it, and we don't realize it, but that's really what happens. So, what was happening to me by being vulnerable from depression? Well, men were abusing me. And then what were friends doing? I had friends that were abandoning me or using me. And so that would put me in a more deeper vulnerability. And then I'm sitting here talking to people, trying to get people to help me. What can I do to fix myself? And then people don't know how to answer that because like they don't even know how to fix themselves. How are they going to teach me how to fix myself? Or they may not even know me well enough to be able to say, well, this is what's wrong, Jen. So I had to find a source to help me manage all of these thoughts and emotions and these characteristics of being vulnerable. And when I was doing that and looking to God for the answers, that was me persevering through the crap that the world was trying to tell me. And that's what the message is today, that we have to keep persevering through the ugly. And that is a big deal. And the world is showing that they don't know how to do it. We have people who do not have self control, who flip out. And that is because they don't know how to control their emotions because they don't realize that they're doing it and they don't know who to go to. If they go to their friends, they're getting the wrong answer. So you have to reach to the power above you who knows you better than you. And that's reaching to God to ask for help and preparing your mentality for persevering through this worldly mess that we're in. And that was a really good piece of the puzzle for me when I realized that I was looking to God. I got two things out of it. So before, when I said, what does vulnerability mean? Abuse and from men, let's say, through God, he showed me, oh, well, I'm a person who's a truth teller. Well, no wonder I don't have a lot of friends. I'm a truth teller. If you're acting like an ass, I'm going to tell you. So people don't like that because they don't know how to act, or they're going to be offended. And really, what we need to do is listen to that person and go, oh, I didn't realize I was being a jerk. Oh, well, I wonder how I can change that. That's what the world's not doing. And that is up to us to do that. You know, everybody wants to blame everybody else for the bad world, but we're all a part of it. We're all putting into the pieces into the world and the way it is right now. So it really is up to us if we want to change it. So my vulnerability by abused men stopped when I found my identity through Jesus. So God showed me I'm a woman who's strong-willed, who doesn't take no for an answer, who's a truth teller, and who seeks wisdom. I want to know what it is I'm doing that's bothering you. So a lot of people can't handle that. So that is who I am through God. I am a person who has an identity. And because I have an identity of who I am, I no longer get abused by men. It's that simple. And here's another example. Friends. In the past, and even some today, they mean well or they don't. And you have to ask God, are these people who mean well or are they mean not good? And he will tell you, be friends with this person, don't be friends with this person. Be careful with this person, or whatever the message is. So my vulnerability showed me that my friends were using me, abandoning me, or taking advantage of my vulnerability. So, what did I learn? I learned through God the truth about who I am. And so, when somebody uses me, I know through who I am through Christ that I like to love people. I'm a person who loves and shows compassion. So there's no real reason for that person to use me unless they're in some kind of mess in their life. So it's not about me. That's truth. So through perseverance, I learned truth and my identity. And when I learned the truth and my identity, I was given more perseverance to get through the tougher times. And this is why being a follower of Jesus is so important. It's not about us saying you're a loser and we're better. It's about us saying, come with us, be in our family, grow in Jesus, and that's who you're going to learn who you are. People out there that are racist is another good example. Racism doesn't make sense. It's based off of fear and lack of understanding. And if you look to Jesus to find truth and your identity, you're going to realize that you were never really a racist. You just didn't understand what you were doing or what you were saying. So I'd like to share with you one of the passage, or the, I guess some people call it a passage, but I like to say scripture now because it just makes sense to me now. And I chose Proverbs 10, 13, 14. So chapter 10, verse 13, 14. It says, wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster. And I mean, that's a really good example. So God isn't going to come down here and beat you with a rod. What he's trying to say is he wants to discipline you. So when I chose, at the moment when I didn't want to live anymore, I chose to get disciplined by God by saying, Jesus, I can't do this. I don't want to live. I looked in the mirror. I didn't like what I saw, but I want to live for my son and my grandkids. So please help me figure out how to persevere through this. And that's when he started speaking to me. And that's when I went into recovery. And now I am full of joy. I am happy. I have been freed of depression for over, I'd say maybe 2 years, maybe 1.5 years. I haven't had medication and I feel fantastic. I finally know who I am because I simply just asked God to help me. And that is a big thing. So the babbling fools, those are the ones who say, well, I got no problems. I got no issues. Well, that's not true. Because if you didn't have any problems, you'd be perfect like God and you wouldn't be on this earth because there is no perfect person. So it's okay. And it's actually very noble of you to look in the mirror and say, yeah, I can learn a little bit of compassion. Yeah, I guess I don't have to be such a jerk. Where does that come from? Why am I being mean to people? Because if you think about it, you're not being mean to the people because they're people. There's something going on that you don't know how to get rid of, and only Jesus can help you with that. So I invite you to invite God into your life and say, help me become a better person. And so with that, we're going to have a little bit of a moment, a motivational moment. And today's comes from Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. That's my favorite passage. I would tell you something, but you probably wouldn't believe me. But I just thought of this verse like an hour before I prepped for this because he is the one who helps me. Like I have to prepare for these videos because it's not about me going on the video and telling you what I think. It's about me preparing to speak through God what he wants you to know today. And today's is perseverance. And through him, you can get that knowledge. And he can give you the strength to endure all things. It's documented in the Bible, just as I read it, and it's truth. And when you learn the truth, and you read the truth, and you hear the truth, you start to speak the truth. And that's the word for today. Persevere through your life. If you're having trouble, which I get, it's not easy, look to God and be open to that. Nobody has to know. You don't have to go stand in the middle of the road and say, God, find me. It can be as private as you want it to be. And when he moves in your life, you're going to want to tell the whole world. And that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where I'm on video, not because I want anything out of it, but because I am in such an awe in my life, I want to share it with you. And I only think that it's only fair that you get that opportunity to find peace in your heart and peace in your life. And doing that is going through Jesus. And when you get him into your life, you can persevere through anything that's happening that we see in front of us. So I hope you have a blessed day. Think of how important you are. You are loved and valued and wanted. So please persevere, ask Jesus for help, and find joy. We'll see you next time on the next subject. Click like and subscribe if you're enjoying my videos, and tag a friend who you think can use a little bit of hope. Till next time, have a great day.